Hey, what is going on, amigos, amigas, ladies and gentlemen, people that aren't as nice? Thank you all for listening. My name is Phil Metzger, and this is the Flickering Lightbulb Podcast, the active exploration and experimentation into the creative process. What does that mean? It means whether it be an idea or actual exposure, what you're observing every day, why you're observing it. It's kind of all balled into one thing that I do, and I try to bring resources, stories, happenings, and trials and errors to you all on a, we'll say, weekly basis. But yeah, I am currently on a mission to find reputable sources regarding social media news, and I'd also like to report to you all on new ideas that are emerging that I find interesting. I might throw a bit of personal or business life in here because I'm consistently going through the process involved with the execution of ideas, especially if I can execute my own ideas using only myself or maybe working with one or two people, who probably have little to no experience, in the field, but just simply, someone else to help me out. Chances are I will want to document the process, so it might be of use to someone else, some of you all out there. There's definitely one thing you have to do when starting anything up, and it's you have to work your butt off. Whether it be informational or of entertainment value, this show, this discussion, this podcast, whatever you want to call it, my interaction, reaching out to you, is all based on ideas and how to make your idea come to fruition. My preferred way to display that, my artistry, my passion is quality music, quality audio, and visuals. That happens to be defined nicely as what a marketer does. The fundamentals, those same skills of music, audio, and video, are constantly being put to use in what's known as social media. I'm not going to try to sell you a damn thing here. Up to date social media information is just relevant to a 16-year-old singer trying to get discovered as it is a 45-year-old business owner who understands that the internet is providing free exposure and that is where many, many potential customers are spending their time. Also, I work remotely. I think it's an emerging, interesting topic for many people, as it's becoming an option not only for entrepreneurs, digital creators, but in the corporate world as well. And this is something I kind of dive into a lot in my off time. I'm not necessarily just fascinated with the difference between entrepreneurs and people that choose to spend their time in the corporate world, but how the corporate world is kind of changing to meet the needs of people in this kind of modern digital age. The traditional thought of a corporation is changing, and like my sister is able to work from home some. She works for a large insurance company, and you know she has grown trust so that people know that perhaps that environment is equally as good, if not better, for her to be working in. So, there's kind of that, can things be changed? Are meetings necessary? All that stuff. It's whatever. I'm not too interested in I don't know, the politics of that type of things. But those employees that have proved that they do not need to be on the premises to be more effective. And then there's also, of course, anybody that's 100% digital or has heavy automated services. I think working remotely is going to be, I don't know, just an interesting topic. If nothing else, you think, can you do it? And should I really try to free some more time up if there's a better environment for me to be working in, even for the same company? Can this improve? Very interested in that type of thing. Anyways, off my soapbox. In this episode, we're going to go through, I guess, what we'll call a highlights section. There's a documentary called Free Solo. Many of you have heard it that I want to get into. It's a documentary about a guy that climbs without ropes, and he climbs a 3,000 foot face, and it's just it's ridiculous. But they also get into like the camera crew, and it's very unique. LinkedIn Live, it's doing well. IGTV and how it works, it's been around, but they've got some new twists. And do you want to use it? Let's see here. What's upcoming? Research I plan on conducting and projects that are in motion. My upcoming trip out west, and just quickly want to address those who are interested in podcasting, and just want to talk quickly about how easy it is. So, but to get started, I want to talk a little bit about Free Solo. I'll read straight from the description here. A professional rock climber, Alex Honnold attempts to conquer the first free solo climb of famed El Capitan's 900-meter vertical rock face at Yosemite National Park. That's 3,000 feet, 900 meters. It was released in September of last year, and I've already started following Jimmy Chin on a couple different social networks. But this guy is a specialist in creating production teams for various climbing and difficult terrain type films. But it was a great film. It did win the Academy Award for the Best Documentary Feature, and sales are just going to go through the roof on that. But it was really amazing. There's a little bit of a love story intertwined in there, which, of course, is kind of paramount if you're trying to hold relationships while also doing something as dangerous as climbing without a rope. But it does go through his whole process, his training, his career, gives beautiful shots of Yosemite, does a great job with graphics and, kind of plotting his route, by looking at the side face of the mountains, the risks that are not only involved with each move, but the thought going into it, the fear that there's a camera crew watching you while trying to do this historic thing. It's thrown so many people off in the past. It's a great, great documentary. Once again, that's free solo. Next on the list is IGTV. I put a few things out there, and just to get a feel for it, and you click on it. It's long form video. It can be up to 10 minutes, and now it can be up to an hour if you have a verified account. But what do I think it is? Well, let's just go over some of the facts, I guess, first. What I know about it, the research I've done, and maybe how I plan on using it. But IGTV is part of Instagram, and what it does is it is supposed to be vertical, long form video. So you go on IGTV, and rather than just a minute max, which is what the current video post is, and it's kind of landscape or square, or you can do vertical on there too, but it's cut off. But IGTV, allows you more screen space. You can go more in depth with storylines. People are really, it seems like Instagram's trying to push almost like a series type thing. Like it's clearly kind of competing for that YouTube airtime. But it does have some disadvantages. One of the disadvantages are when you go to IGTV, you can't just like search a topic, or you have to know the specific person you're wanting to see. Now it will give you suggestions of people you might like. You can follow different people's channels, and you can also upload your own content. So if you already know the person, it's good. But if you're searching for something like YouTube, it's just not going to happen, like how-tos or anything like that. But what you can do that's different from a regular Instagram post is that in the description you can put full links. So what we did with our first piece that we pushed out on IGTV was with ADC paving. We just did this a couple days ago, and we put out a video, and then it was about the history of ADC. We got old photos of the generations that came before that worked for ADC. I broke apart a piece of an interview that Kevin Gray did and kind of made a timed storylined piece about the progression of the company and what it's like working with family. So the video ended up being 4 minutes. Now, what IGTV is trying to do is you can put the first minute of that in your feed. So it will come up as a regular post in Instagram for the first minute. You can't shuffle it to another part of the video and make that your preview. For now, it's just the first minute that you can see. You can't upload a cover image. Now, if you go into the description and try to use hashtags, the hashtags will not auto-populate. And the regular post, when you make a regular post, you can hashtag and it'll start to give you suggestions. I believe it's the same way in story. But let's see if I can wrap this up, put this nice little bow on it. So you can use the description. You can type out whatever. You can link to an external source, which our full interview, the full 60-minute interview, was linked after that 4-minute IGTV. So we're interested to see if those numbers go up. So IGTV allows you to now put a post in your feed, make a 15-second story out of it, and you can link to external things. So I don't know if it's going to be huge, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially if you're wanting to keep a theme going, because you can kind of have different channels within IGTV. So it really could be a one-stop source for entertainment. The only problem is you have to already know what that entertainment is because you can't search for it. So, if you have any specific questions about IGTV and resources that I use to figure all this out, I've decided to go with my Instagram accounts. I try to check email very infrequently. So, if you want to get a hold of me on Instagram, it's at Soul Model Media. That's soul.model.media, or at The Flickering Light Bulb is this specific web or this specific podcast name. So feel free to reach out either one of those. I'll put them in the show notes. And that goes for the rest of the questions or comments for the rest of this episode. So IGTV, that's kind of it in a nutshell. The next little thing I wanted to talk about was LinkedIn Live. LinkedIn Live seems to be doing very well. I have seen it populate a few times, and I don't know if they're still or if they're at the end of beta testing, and you can still only do it if basically LinkedIn is reaching out to people they trust to say, "Hey, give this a whirl, see what you like about it." And there was one person in particular that I just recently, in the past few months, became connected with through Christine Gritman. Shout out Christine Gritman. Go find the earlier episode from her on social media. Anyways, Chris Strub is absolutely doing this fantastically. Strangely enough, he's working with Stitcher, which is a program that can allow you to live stream using different Apple iPhones and iPads and things like that. So he's not only using LinkedIn Live, he is using a program to be able to switch cameras, bring up titles and bring up logos and all kinds of like transitions and things like that. And actually, I used that for a previous show that I did about a year ago. It's a company based in Louisville. And strangely enough, it's also the company that I actually applied for a job that I'll agree I wasn't quite qualified at that point there, but it was one of the things that actually led to my move to New York. And it's crazy how things work out. But what Chris Strub has been doing with LinkedIn Live, he has been he's been having questions ready to pop up on screen. Then he gives people time to answer them, and then he responds to them in live time. And it really seemed to be working well. The response is quite enormous, even when you get on there live or watch it back. I mean, the view count is through the roof, and Chris clearly does a good job. Just a little bit more about Chris because he deserves the recognition. Just some things from his site. His new blog focuses on strategies for nonprofits nationwide. Chris served as a National Red Kettle Ambassador for the Salvation Army. His blog also includes analysis of his various client work. In the summer of 2015, 29-year-old Chris Strub traveled solo and unsponsored to all corners of the country, weaving together stories of youth-related nonprofits using a broad variety of social media tools, including Snapchat and live streaming. Dude is cool. Nonprofits, getting your message out there. Social media, it's a thing, but it's also just an incredible tool. So, stretch out here a little bit, and I wanted to just talk about interview tips. And this will also kind of lead in, I guess, if you're wanting to start a podcast, or if you're just wondering how to keep not only yourself engaged, maybe in a boring conversation, but if you're really curious or and have a short amount of time to maybe pick someone's brain, or just one or two opportunities to pick someone's brain, you want to kind of make sure to take use of that time. So, I guess, shoot, I have no freaking clue. Maybe something like, I don't know. I'll say I've been part of, conducted, or worked on something like 30 to 40 interviews now, and I just have a running list of notes, and I thought I'd kind of just share them here with you. And yeah, okay. So tip number one, I don't know. Let them know, the guest, what type of format it is. Even if you think they are sure or don't need a refresher, tell them what the point is, why they're here. I tell my guest, I am here to listen to your comments. Typically doesn't turn into a conversation, but it can go that way. I would like to build off topics you find interesting. Are there any questions you wish someone would ask you? And just kind of let them know it's about them. I really am interested to hear their answers, to just relax and speak, as they are. As I said last time, it doesn't always work with, bringing a big camera, lighting, microphones. It can be intimidating. But let the subject answer the question however they want to. If they interpret the question a different way than you intended, continue to let them speak anyways. Chances are they want to address what is in their mind. Come back and ask the question a different way later if you need to, and perhaps explain why if they have a puzzled look on their face as to it sounding similar to one you've already asked. Then just a couple quick checks here. Most of your interviewees will speak louder than when they do the sound test. So if you're getting that in depth to where you're checking levels, it'll be louder when it comes time to record. Make sure to go through your checklist. It's easy. Even if you need to scan it and reprint a blank one every time, go through the checklist. I actually shot from the hip for this interview, sat down completely ready. Coffee, orange seltzer, ready to go. No memory card in the recording device. So check your list. Be interested, like genuinely respect the fact that these people that you have asked to talk to gave you their time, and respect their words. Don't become defensive if something really bothers you, or they know like they're here to have, you know, not just pre-written questions. Speak your mind, but be respectful. If their eyes light up about something you ask, or something that even they're talking about, like if all of a sudden they sit up in their chair and their eyes become bigger, like ask more questions about that topic because they're passionate about it. Either that, or they might just know more about that subject and be able to elaborate and feel comfortable getting the ball rolling, especially if it's early in the conversation. And then, of course, ask them if they have something that they would like to address, since you have a platform that you might be able to help them out. I would be interested in doing a gear review if someone wants it. I do have some I guess pricey equipment and programs that you might not have, but maybe you're potentially looking or interested in behind the scenes. If you want to see either or, like behind the scenes or just some of the gear, reach out to me. As I said, you can DM me on Instagram. A lot of the things I do, and whether no matter what the level of equipment, it's transferable to all levels, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. Also, if you want to send me a voice recorded question in the message on Instagram, I will play back the questions and answer them on the next solo episodes. That is, if I have the expertise. Chances are, if it's relevant, that I'll do some research. All right, so what's upcoming? Some research I plan on conducting and projects that are already in motion. I have one in mind as far as an interview that looks like it's going to happen, but I am not. It's not locked in yet, but I'm pretty excited, so I can't comment as to who yet. I want to continue to working with Charlie Walker. As far as working, long distance, this is going to be the first time that I'll be working with a writer. He has decided to help me write a 60-second spot. And this is just a way to kind of test out if it would even work long distance, because Charlie's work ethic and personality is just something that I find rare. And so, especially with him coming from a comedy background, and he is a great stand-up, but I think his writing is phenomenal. His ability to create with few elements is how you get something great started. Like, you don't have to walk around long, thinking about, well, why is this blank page? What's going on this blank page with Charlie? So that'll be exciting. You'll probably see that in about a month or two, but switching the page here. Almost over, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. I'm going to be trying out Social Media Examiner. It was recommended by Christine Gritman. She is one of the other previous episodes, but she said this is kind of a weekly type deal. I believe it's a newsletter, but honestly, their website, they do advanced reporting on social media, and I've been really impressed so far, but we'll kind of be checking in on how well that'll actually be a part of my routine. Loon Shots. This is a book that I will be getting into, and I have to say, I don't think I've been more excited about listening to a book, but it's called, Loon Shots, or Loon Shot. How to Nurture the Crazy Ideas That Wins Wars, Cures Diseases, and Transforms Industries. an excerpt about the book. In Loonshot, physicist and entrepreneur Safai Bakal reads a surprising new way of thinking about the mysteries of group behavior that challenges everything we thought we knew about nurturing radical breakthroughs. Over the past decade, researchers have been applying the tools and techniques of phase transitions to understand how birds flock, fish swim, brains work, people vote, criminals behave, ideas spread, diseases erupt, and ecosystems collapse. Loonshots is the first to apply these tools to help all of us unlock our potential and create crazy new ideas, change the world. Okay. I guess I read much faster and more accurately, but I'm pumped about that book. It really evidently dives into and compares things that typically aren't compared, but they had very similar processes. It's just there were certain things that turned the tide for them, and I'm just interested to see how crazy ideas hit the world. Also, I will be taking a trip out west, and this is where kind of, I guess, my personal and professional life kind of comes into what I'll be providing here, since it will be only my girlfriend and I, but we're heading out west, light luggage documentary style, but we'll be heading to Phoenix, and we'll drive from Phoenix. We'll be picked up from Phoenix and going to Tucson for 2 days. Then we'll be driving up to Sedona for a day. Then we will either be stopping by Joshua Tree for an evening, perhaps, or maybe going something along the northern route. I believe it's 44. But she's let me bring my equipment, and that's awesome. I'm excited to put together just something because, as I said, I've packed light for this type of thing, and now it's kind of time to have a little fun with it. So I said I would get to how easy is it to podcast. I can't tell you, but there have been many people that have come up to me saying, I'm ready to do a podcast. I really want to do a podcast. And whether it's just a jumping off point for, am I good enough to, be on a podcast? I think people also don't know that it's really easy to start a podcast. There are tons of podcasts that are done just on your phone. They just set the phone on the table and then start either speaking their mind or have an interview guest on or whatever they want to do. But it really is super simple to put together. What you have to do is basically find a host, which, what is it called? SoundHound, I believe, still does it for free. And there are couple other free options. But basically, if you have a audio file that you take off your phone, or if you want to get into gear, you get the gear and you take that audio file, upload it to a site. I personally use Libsyn, which is paid, but just because it distributes it on all networks for you. But you can distribute them all yourself because once you put it into somewhere like SoundHound, it'll give you something called an RSS feed. And then you can go to Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Stitcher or wherever you want to. Stitcher also provides RSS feed. But anyways, you can distribute them all yourself on the platform that you want. So all you have to do is think of a title. Make sure it's rated appropriately and that you're not jacking someone else's stuff. I mean, you're good. iTunes is definitely the hardest to get on. They take the longest, but whatever. It's worth it. Once you've uploaded that first episode and they've verified that your podcast, does have a solid home with that RSS feed, you'll be able to publish your next episodes fairly shortly. So get out there. If you have any questions, holler at me. My question for you this week, I'm going to try to have a question for you guys. When you, all right, let's see. Let's actually, try to read here. When you're really cranking out work, what is your ideal work setting and how long does the productive run last? I'll review your questions and answer and chat about them. DM me at The Flickering Lightbulb. That's The Flickering Lightbulb, or Soul Model Media. That's SOUL.MODEL.MEDIA. Yeah, if I start getting enough questions, I'll set up a chat. But yeah, when you're really cranking out work, what is your ideal setting? Like, where is that? What type of situation? And how long does that productive run last? I know sometimes I get on a 3-day run, no sleep, all that stuff. And I know sometimes I get in this rhythm where that sweet spot is just 10 a.m. to noon. Last, a bit of sad news. I will only be doing audio only for this podcast. I might conduct interviews where, I bring somewhat of a setup for the visual side of things, but it just takes a ton of time when you get into offloading, 4K video footage. If nothing else, it takes up my computer's resources. So temporarily, that will have to be put on hold. But I hope to still provide some valuable visual content. Wrapping up, check out the previous episodes: Charlie Walker, comedian; Christine Gritman, small and micro-sized business. Social media is not scary type stuff. She's great. Kevin Gray, president owner of ADC Paving, main client that I do most of my work for. Check him out on Instagram at ADC, on all major platforms, honestly. And to finish up, I'm going to do a quote in the episode, and evidently I'm going to state everything I do before I do it. I'll work on that, but quote for the day: just take the picture. You have the rest of your life to figure it out what it means. Keith Carter, photographer. Thanks, guys. Have a good rest of the day.